15 students from the state of Hawaii were given a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to travel to Vietnam with the Pacific and Asian Affairs Council, thanks to a generous grant from the Freeman Foundation. After a week-long orientation, the PAC students were excited and prepared for the journey ahead. In the past, Vietnam was subjected to thousands of years of foreign rule, including Chinese, French, and American, which is still evident in their architecture, music, clothing, and society.
When I think of Vietnam, of course the first thing that comes to mind for me as American is the Vietnam War.
The PAC students first arrived in Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. This fast-paced, bustling city of 6.5 million people recently reached its 1000th birthday.
I remember the first thought was, it's so hot. And I couldn't really concentrate on anything because it was so hot. And I looked around and I was thinking, how are they working and how are students studying in this heat?
Studying for cram classes is common in Vietnam, as education is a priority, and the Hawaii students needed to quickly adjust to a faster and disciplined idea of schooling.
The kids in all the schools, they work so hard. They work a lot harder than American students in school, but they might not get the chance to ever travel like we did, or even get a job that pays better than us. People in America take their education and their jobs and everything's really for granted, when it's not really something you should take for granted, because then you have people in Vietnam who may not get to do what they like to do.
Before leaving Hawaii, the PAC students raised over $1,500, which was used to purchase 2 computers and hundreds of notebooks and pens for Hoi An Elementary School students. The next day, the PAC students visited an English language school where they painted a mural symbolizing unity and friendship between Hawaii and Vietnam.
When I first heard that we were going to paint a mural, I was excited because I really like painting, and designing things is one of my favorite things to do. I thought it came out really well. I thought it brought out a great message for the kids in Hoi An.
I would just be like, oh yeah, my bag's broken, oh my gosh. And then when I went to one of the elementary schools in Hoi An, I saw this girl who had a bag, but it was a box for strawberry wafers, and then she attached string to it, and that was her school bag. And that made me really sad, because then I feel really spoiled, and I take a lot of things for granted.
Yeah.
In Sapa, the students took in the beautiful scenery, rolling rice paddies, rivers, and traditional houses during their overnight stay. The homestay host performed songs and dances showcasing the culture of Sapa.
Then there was also these sellers, the Hmong people, and I guess I went through a cultural shock because they would come to you and they would ask where you were from, and then when you give them their name, they would tell you, or they would ask you, it's would you buy from me, or you buy from me tomorrow? And then I don't know. At first, I was a little shocked, and I guess in a way surprised that they were so persistent. But then I realized that that's all they had, that was their way of life to get by.
The beauty of Sapa was matched by Halong Bay, a World Heritage Site which faces its own challenges in persevering the traditional culture and natural environment.
I did my senior project on native plant restoration, and you go to these protected areas, and they're getting funding from private government, from private sources, our government, from all these different places and all this money. And I thought that they didn't get enough money, and then I went to Halong Bay, and they're just starting a method to pick up trash. And I think such a beautiful place like that should be more protected.
The PAC students had an opportunity to not only explore different locations of Vietnam, but to experience a deeper connection with the Vietnamese and their culture through different homestay experiences. It was a time in which they strengthened their connection to the everyday lives of the Vietnamese.
At first I was with my homestay partners, I was trying to keep my distance from them because I didn't really know them when I first met them. But then they were trying to get to know me, talk to me, and I was just trying to back off a little bit. Now that I think of it, I was trying to be rude. After a while I was oh, you know what, they're just probably trying to get to know me really well. So I just decided to like get past all that, my comfort zone.
I started to say why not a lot, like I noticed it. Like, do you want to smell some durian? I was like, why not? Do you want to drive the boat? Why not? And I really liked it. Before coming to Vietnam, I was always like, why would I do that? But now, I'm kind of just like going with the flow and just being like, yeah, okay, sure. What could go wrong?
Before the group knew it, the trip had nearly come to an end. Their last stop was Ho Chi Minh City, the most populated city, as well as the commercial and industrial center of Vietnam.
Being in Ho Chi Minh City, it really surprised me also because it was so fast-paced here compared to everywhere else that we've been. And it was so modern compared to Hawaii that I couldn't believe that Vietnam, being a third world country, was more modern in one part of its area than the state that we lived in. So it was interesting to see that in Vietnam there was such a disparity between the people that live here, and the living conditions were so different based on all the places we've been.
The group explored the Cu Chi tunnels with the Thai Binh High School students before staying overnight at the school's dormitory. At the school, they participated in a cultural exchange show and attended classes.
It reminded me of just like another high school, just kids having fun and wanting to play around but still needing to learn all they could before they get to college. We got to dance, we got to sit in classes, we did PE. I see how much kids are ready to take the next step in their life, and I think that's going to help me in preparing for my next step, college.
As it neared time for the packed students to board the plane back to Hawaii, it was clear that each student was disappointed that their adventure was coming to a close. However, each was confident that they had gained knowledge and relationships that would last beyond the borders of Vietnam.
The people here are looking towards the future. They're thinking of growth for their own country and not thinking of the past and violence. Basically what they want is they want peace. And I think that's an amazing thing.
And I think I really want to be able to go around the world and see what other places are like. If Vietnam changed this much of my view of the world, I'm sure other places are just the same.
Vietnam is so far, and we think about jungle and a developing country, but at the same time there are people with emotions just like us and interests just like us. So I could relate to a lot of people in ways that I didn't think I would relate to them. It's not just Hawaii and myself. The shores of Hawaii are like my comfort zone and my home. But coming out to Vietnam, I realized that there's so much more to this world.